Hey everybody, it's Thursday, and you know what that means. Welcome to another episode of CEO Success Talk. I am Bill, the company's expert. Thank you for tuning in. And today I wanted to respond to an awesome comment that somebody had left on a previous video in this series. They had described how they had been promoted from being a worker. They'd been promoted several times all the way up the organizational chart to where they were essentially an executive manager. And then they say, I'd love to get your viewpoints on how best to change one's mindset when moving from one level to the next. Excellent question. Well, first start, to change your mindset when moving from one level to the next. If you've been promoted, say 4 times, that's 4 levels of abstraction from where the rubber meets the road, from where the actual work is being done. Okay? And at the worker level, technical skills are everything. Okay? It's all about technical skills. Whereas if you're a mid-level manager or a general manager or an executive manager, you don't do the work. You don't do the actual work needing technical skills, generally speaking. You are going to be projecting yourself onto your subordinates who then will do the work for you, right? I mean, that's how this works. So you go from doing the work yourself to projecting yourself. And like, I guess we could give an example. Like, let's say there was a certain set of priorities and there were a few principles that you would normally employ to do your job as a worker, right? If you're a worker, you just get on with it. You employ those priorities, those principles, you get the job done. If you're a mid-level manager or an executive manager, you're going to be projecting yourself. So you're going to be determining the priorities and the principles that you want all your subordinates to employ when they do their work. And when you think about it, like, what are the things you actually have to do to accomplish that? Well, number one, you got to communicate what the priorities and the principles are. So you need basic communication skills, right? That's pretty critical. I say basic, but a lot of people don't have that. Then it's not just a matter of telling them what they should be doing. You're going to have to persuade them that this is the right thing to do, this makes the most sense, and that you have to try and get buy-in. You have to try and get these people to believe that this is the right thing to do, that they should all be doing. And so you're going to need powers of persuasion. You're going to need it's almost like being a teacher and being a therapist, in the sense that you have to work through issues with individual employees or groups of employees. You have to be a great salesperson to be able to convince them to get on board with this and to see it your way. To be a good negotiator, a diplomat. I mean, these are all hats you have to wear. And just being a worker, being a worker and having technical skills doesn't have anything to do with teaching or being a therapist or being a salesperson or any of these other things necessarily. So obviously it's a shift. It's a complete shift to a different role, right? So, I mean, in terms of changing your mindset, that's kind of a big one, right? Now, not every manager does this. It depends on the industry or the situation. Sometimes you get managers that, they don't do any of this. All they do is they look at metrics and then they allocate resources based on what the metrics say. It's a far easier job than actually building a business. It's just sort of being a glorified, a glorified bean counter, really. There's that type of management. And this kind of goes into an area of a question that I was also asked recently on another video, where somebody said, they described a similar situation where they said, I've been promoted several times, and the problem is that I've never been to business school. I don't have any formal management training. Is this a problem? And the answer to that, I would say, is it depends on your situation. There are a lot of industries, like if you're in a mature industry, that doesn't really change. Like, you go back 30 years and the way they were doing it then is kind of still the way they're doing it now, and it's the way they're expected to do it in 30 years' time. If that's the kind of industry you're in, then what I would say is having been to business school doesn't help you that much. You know, there are people who get promoted and they've never been to business school. They don't know how to be a manager, but the way they operate is they see what their boss does, and they shadow their boss, and they learn their boss's job, and then they just imitate. You know, it's not like they've been trained formally on how to do business. They're just imitating what they've seen. And in a mature industry, you can go very high. You can go up to the executive level easily just by doing that, where you just imitate what you see your boss doing, and that's how you do that job when you get promoted into it. You don't need management skills for that, really. I know that's a controversial thing to say, but it's true. Now, the problem happens where the assumption we're going under is that business doesn't really change. Okay? Essentially, it's the same. The problem lies when all of a sudden that industry experiences change. Maybe there's economic change. Maybe the market or the customers change. Maybe the technology changes or the industry changes. Then it's a problem if you've never been to business school, because now just doing what you've seen other people do, that's not going to cut it anymore. And you need to know what changes to make to adapt to a new situation, and that's where you need the business training, the management training. That's where that comes in. So in that situation, if it's a mature industry, things don't really change. Your mindset doesn't really change that much. You're just imitating what you see, and all you have to do is lather, rinse, repeat, and that's how you climb the ladder. And then just cross your fingers that there's no major industry shift happening anytime soon. Now, the good news is that if you are in that situation, okay, and I apologize for the weird lighting in here, it's partly cloudy, I'm sure you understand. I think that was the weather forecast. There's a 50% chance it's going to be partly cloudy, something like that. Anyway, the good news is that if you're in that situation and you want to quickly and easily tack on some management skills, it can be done pretty easily. Okay, this is not rocket science here. Just speaking from experience, I have an engineering degree, and then I took an MBA. MBA is child's play compared to an engineering degree. Technical, if you have technical skills and you that's what you're versed in, adding some of these management skills is really not that hard. So that's the good news. Now, if there's one thing I would recommend to people if you're in that situation, it's like someone asking me, what's the most important area of management that you should know to be a good manager? I would say that is organizational theory. Okay, hopefully you've heard of organizational theory. If you haven't, it's one area of management. If you look at a master's degree in management, okay, the MBA, and you look at what they do, they take about 10 to 15 courses, and they're each on a different area of management. And you know a lot of these already, things like sales, accounting, finance, HR, marketing, things like this, right? Well, one area is organizational theory. And if you're looking to quickly learn that stuff, this is what I'd recommend you do, okay? Go online to your favorite university, okay, like Harvard Business School or whatever you want, and look at their MBA program, look at the courses within it, and look at the course that they have on organizational theory. Okay, it's going to be called organizational theory or organizational behavior, something like that, okay? Look at that course. You can usually see what textbook they're using, okay? So make a note of the title and the author, and then go to Amazon and order that book, okay? Now, if they're using like the 8th edition of the book, if you can get the 6th edition, you can get it literally for like $5. You know, like we're really talking not a lot of money here. get the book when it comes, skim it, and read the important parts or the interesting parts. And in a very short space of time, you can learn a lot of these principles. And this will have the most impact for only a little bit of work and a little bit of money. This will have a tremendous impact on your ability to manage people and make good business decisions. Now, organizational theory. I guess I should explain what it is. What this will get you is, like, before you go to business school, if you were to look at most organizations, what do you see? You see, like in a big organization, you see merit not really counting for much. You see people playing all kinds of shenanigans on each other with office politics and power politics to try and get, their project funded or their grant approved, or they want to be promoted instead of somebody else. You see all these kind of things going on, and you probably can't make sense of it all. It just looks stupid and bad. Well, after you take organizational theory, one of the benefits is that you look at that same organization, and now all of a sudden it makes perfect sense. And what's more is that you know exactly what you need to do to succeed within that organization to get your goals achieved. So it's a great thing to know, okay? So I would say do that and learn a bit of organizational theory if you've never been to business school and you're concerned about that because you're being promoted into a management position or executive management position. And other than that, it's just being able to, like the mindset that you need to shift to as you're being promoted is just to be able to project yourself and just to have more skills when it comes to dealing with people. And there's a hell of a lot of people in this world that do not have those skills. Everyone talks about it, sure, but very few people actually have it. For one, just being a great listener is a huge skill you need to have. And I know that sounds so basic and trivial, but it's really true. When technical people get promoted into management positions, a lot of them don't have great listening skills. What they do is when someone's talking to them and they shut up for a minute, they think they're listening, but they're not. Actually, what they're doing is they're just waiting for the other person to shut up so they can say their thing. And that's not listening. So tacking on interpersonal skills like that as you go up is very important. And then the idea is that when you get to be an executive manager, you should be in the heavyweight championship of interpersonal skills. That's kind of how that works. So, anything you can do in the meantime to do public speaking, to do business strategy, to do, any of the stuff that I mentioned previously, like, almost like a debate club or like, be a therapist or be a teacher. Any of those skills that you can add on will help. And as you go up the ladder, when you get to the executive level, you should be really on your A game when it comes to that stuff. Okay, so I apologize if this was a little long-winded and rambling, but it's a very general topic. Hopefully that was somewhat helpful. Please keep these awesome questions coming, and I look forward to doing another one of these next week on Thursday and getting your questions and comments. Thank you very much. Have yourselves a great week, and as always, you're awesome. Take care.